Okay, Hi, Amy, and welcome to all of you who are joining us here today, this rainy afternoon. We have something really exciting that's happening this Sunday at worship, and it's very outside of the realm of, our standard Sunday. And I wanted to get together with you all and just talk a little bit more about that and why we're doing that and what that looks like and what folks can expect. So, Amy, why don't you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about what folks can expect on Sunday and what's happening?
Sure. On Sunday, our sanctuary choir will present a choral work by Camille Sasson called the Christmas Oratorio. And they're accompanied by string quartet and harpist and soloist, soprano, mezzo-soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. And this is a 35-minute choral work that uses the text from passages in both the Old Testament and the New Testament, and from the Latin Vulgate. But it is a telling of Christ's birth and an intimate or our reaction to Christ's birth. So we are so excited. The choir's been working on this since September, and we're excited to present this in worship on Sunday.
That's fabulous. So it's an oratorio, but I don't know much about, different types of composition? What makes it an oratorio?
An oratorio is like an opera, except that it doesn't have props. So there are no props or costumes, but it still uses recitative, which is like a song speech that moves along a plot, and arias. And often oratorio use sacred text.
Right.
Just like this one, it's like Handel Messiah is an oratorio.
Got it.
So it's very opera-like, without costumes, without props.
Right.
And in that the text is sacred.
Right. So it takes us through kind of that storyline journey arc too. And you've started touching on it, but why do this as an act of worship rather than, a concert? You see lots of concerts of the Messiah around this time of year. Why bring it as a part of worship?
My hope and prayer is for Sunday is that even though this is a work that could stand alone in a performance, but because we're bringing it into a worship service, it takes on a different dimension as it is an expression of our faith.
Right. And I love that. I'm thinking about when I was a little kid, always tell the congregation, not to clap for, the pageant experiences or whatever. And as a kid, you felt like you wanted people to clap, and there was always that sort of tension there, right? And as an adult, I grew up with that, and then as an adult, as I think about it, I want to clap a lot. As an expression of the joy and the movement that I feel emotionally in a worship experience. But there is that tension there, and I think in bringing it into the worship experience, we're taking it strictly from a performance to that where we do hope it moves you. And yes, there may be places where you want to express your appreciation for that, but we are really hoping to get that evocative response because we're putting our own worship experiences in the context of this sacred story that has moved people for thousands of years. And I'm thinking back about the fact that so much of art and even of science actually has come out of this story for thousands of years. It has inspired the best in human creativity and human expression, and to be able to incorporate that experience of the best and of that evocative response to religious story, sacred story, on Sunday morning is going to be really a magical thing. So thank you for thinking about that. And I'm just sort of thinking about, are there particular things that people should be listening for in the oratorio or in the music, to fully experience it or appreciate it?
Absolutely. The very beginning of the work, there's a prelude that introduces sort of a motif or a theme, a musical theme that is introduced by the strings, and this theme comes back throughout the work. So that's sort of a musical, interesting element that you can listen for throughout. But then the soloists tell the story right up front, the story of Christ's birth, and the shepherd's reaction, which was fear and concern, being overwhelmed, and then Mary's reaction, which we can talk about and again. But so the soloists start right off tell the story sort of in recitative form, and then the chorus comes in with the story, glory to God in the highest. And then, so the story has already been put in place, and from that point on, it is the soloist and the choir telling our reaction to that story. So then the tenor comes in and sings a beautiful credo of like, I believe. The mezzo-soprano sings a patiently, I've waited. And Advent is a time of waiting and a time of expectance is what she sings. And then the center of the work and is really like a questioning of why. Like, we've had this beautiful story and sort of an individual reaction to it. But then in the center of the work is the strings have this furious passion, and the choir is singing, why? Why do things happen in the world that we don't understand? If this story is supposed to bring peace and goodwill to all. And so there's this turmoil, and then in the middle of that turmoil, the music shifts, and there's this peaceful assurance of sort of, it reminds me, and I shared this with the choir too, of the quote by Julian Norwich, that all shall be well and all manner of things shall be well.
Yeah.
So it's like, even though we don't know the answers, you know, our faith gives us some confidence that all shall be well. And then from that point on, the rest of the piece is just Alleluia, Alleluia, Alleluia. And then it ends.
Fabulous.
And then it ends with this piece, sort of homophonic, hymn-like movement that is just praise ye the Lord of hosts. So there's lots of, it ends in joy.
Right. Well, and that's appropriate. I've lit the Advent candles here. It's Joy Sunday, right? So gaudete, the joy of this experience. But I love that it passes you through the emotional experience that is really faith. And that's part of what I wanted to highlight, is that this time of year, people are looking for that. You're looking for something that is real and deep and acknowledges the fullness of the human experience and the sacred experience and what we're looking for. And music can touch that in a way that we can't do with just words alone, right?
Absolutely. Music is a powerful form of spiritual expression. And then when we bring the sacred text had with music into a worship setting, it not only will, and my prayer, that it not only will be that powerful experience for the musicians, but equally as much for the listener.
Right, and I should mention that we will have a text that you can follow along, so you can follow along with the Latin, the Vulgate scriptural text, but you'll also be able to understand the English, so you'll be able to catch the full depth of that. And the last thing I wanted to talk about just briefly is, in learning a little bit about this piece, I kind of went down a rabbit hole in researching Camille Saint-Saëns, and fascinating. He was often credited as being an even larger child prodigy than, the biggest. 3 years old, doing his own compositions, perfect pitch, just an incredible life's work that took him through, the Wagnerian movement and then into more modernistic expressions. But what I thought was really fascinating is, he was brought up in the church tradition. He was really steered to be an organist because that is where music is born, right? That's where you get the ability to support yourself as a musician, but also to really play all the time. Again, that resonance between faith and song. But as he got older, he really kind of rebelled away from the church itself as a sort of an industry, because he felt like the clerics were getting in the way, right? They were so dogmatic that they wanted to control how the music expressed faith, right? They wanted to be able to control our human experience of faith. But he didn't move away from spirituality. He remained an incredibly faithful person and wrote about that all the time to his friends, including, visions he would have of different experiences that were to come, or connections he had with his friends. So a deeply faithful person who really was moved by this story and wanted to experience the fullness of that. So I just think that that's really exciting for us as we think about what we're hoping for this Sunday, right?
Yes, and I too, I've done this work several times, and I've been so fascinated by his life. And some interesting tidbits that I shared with the choir is that he had all 32 of Beethoven's piano sonatas memorized.
Really?
Yeah. And one of the piece that he is most known for his Carnival of the Animals,
Yes.
which is used as a way to teach children how to listen for the instruments of the orchestra, because the instruments reflect certain animals. But he wrote that as like a joke for a party and refused to have it performed during his life, and probably be horrified. That's one of his, that people are most known for. And
Right.
that's why I think it's important, too, to share this music, because the Christmas Oratorio isn't one of his more well-known works, but it has such charm, and I think is important in that it tells a human reaction
Right.
to the Christmas story.
Right.
And so I am really delighted to share it with the choir and with our congregation, and also to the community.
Yeah. And just along those lines, I noted that he tried to retire a few times, but then the wars happened, right? And so he was in London just trying to survive, and that brought him back to playing, right, and to performing. So just, again, that deep resonance. So
And he was a church musician in Paris when he wrote this work, and wrote it in a very short period of time, I think like 12 days, and they did it on Christmas Day.
Should we all be so productive or lucky? Well, thank you for sitting down with me, Amy, to just talk a little bit about it. And, for those of you out there watching, I really hope you'll take this opportunity. Like I mentioned, this is the time of year when people are looking for something not just magical, right? They're looking for something deeper that answers or explores those questions, right? That explores the fullness of the human experience. And so this is the time to, if you've ever thought of inviting someone to church with you, this is the time to do it. So we hope you will not only come and, be ready to experience the fullness of this work and this worship experience, but, maybe invite somebody along who could be looking for something that might resonate this season. So
I appreciate this time to talk with you about this work, and I'm just grateful to be able to share music. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Amy, for doing it. And we'll see you all on Sunday. Okay, now back to getting ready.